Welcome back for part 8 of the Dear David haunting, and this is where Adam starts to really dive into his own investigating. Let's get into this. 11 days pass and Adam posts another series of tweets, reassuring his followers that yes, he is still alive and that there is something he is trying to figure out how to investigate. But before letting us know he needed something substantial enough to report. The logistics of what he is trying to investigate is hard to explain, so instead he fills us in that there is an entire part of his apartment that he is just now finding out about. At least that's what he thinks. The building he lives in is a duplex. When this all started, Adam lived on the first floor, but moved to the second floor. It's a long boxy building with a business right next door, where Adam saw David on the roof. Weeks prior, when posting his latest tweets of the dark photos on his camera roll, Adam mentions that just 30 seconds after sending the last tweet, he heard a loud thump above his head, as if someone above him dropped something on the floor, which would have been impossible since he was in the top apartment. With no way to the roof, no ladder or trees outside, or any way from the inside except through the skylight in the hallway, Adam explains that it definitely wasn't pipes either, and that the sound was something distinctively falling to the floor. The building is old, and he knows it makes noises, but this was a new sound, and it startled him. Adam begins thinking, is there some secret crawl space in my home? He looks all over his apartment but can't figure it out. So he goes out to the hallway, and that's when it dawns on him. A mysterious hatch sits above his stairs in the hallway. He's always known about it, but always assumed it opened directly to the roof. But as this all dawns on him, he noticed that there's no way it can lead to the roof because it's actually below the roof. By checking Google Earth, he sees that the skylight is actually flush with the roof, and the hatch is about 3 feet below the skylight, meaning there's about 3 feet of crawl space between the hatch and the roof. Additionally, the hatch is level with the rest of the ceilings in Adam's apartment, which means there's 3 feet of empty space all over his apartment. He tweets that it could be residential codes of something or other that he might not know about, so at the time it didn't seem relevant enough to mention. But a few days after the first sound, he heard a similar thump while he was in the kitchen. Then the night before he posted these tweets, he heard something clink to the floor, then roll about 6 feet before stopping. He knows something is going on up there. Maybe a raccoon, maybe not. He can't get over the fact that the hatch is at such a weird, inaccessible place over the stairs, but he knows he needs to investigate this. He's just not sure how. He questions maybe a pole and or a ladder from Amazon to see if the hatch even moves. Then just 10 minutes later, he tweets that he went with the pole to see if the hatch moves, and if so, he'll buy a ladder or have his landlord investigate. Welcome back for part 9 of the Dear David haunting, and y'all won't believe what Adam finds in the mysterious crawl space. First, we know it's been some time, so Happy New Year. Alright, now it's time to get back into this story. After the last tweets on November 17th, another series of tweets start up again on the 28th. The noises upstairs never let up, and unfortunately the pole never arrived before he had to leave for Thanksgiving, so he receives it that following Friday, late at night. He tweets that he plans to investigate the next morning and heads to bed. He had barely fallen asleep when he woke up to an incredibly loud crash above him, like someone dropped a bowling ball. He bolted upright in bed and immediately felt strange, stating there was an inexplicably weird energy all around him. About 1 minute later, he hears another loud crash, and he debates grabbing his shoes and booking it, but didn't, because of how bad of an idea it seemed to pass under the hatch. So he just listened and waited, though not knowing what for. The crash happens again, then again, and probably 15 more times in a row, followed by a long silence. Then he hears a similar creaky sound coming from the hallway. He registers it as footsteps, but knows it could have been anything. He stays still, but there were no more sounds after that. He lays back down, still tense and nervous, but somehow falls back asleep and wakes up to everything seemingly normal. He gets dressed and heads out for his usual Saturday morning bagel. As he makes his way down the stairs, something crunches under his feet and notices a pile of debris on the stairs directly under the hatch. He glares up at the hatch and notices something caught in the edge of the door, poking out. He took this photo from the floor, but it's easy to see what he's talking about. At that point, bagels were the last thing on his mind. He heads back upstairs to get the pole, sets his camera on the coat rack at the top of the stairs, and hits record, in case a demon bursts out of the hatch. In this video, he uses the pole to push open the door, and whatever was caught falls down. He jumps out of the way of whatever it was and nearly falls down the stairs trying to dodge it. Maybe it's a dead squirrel. That honestly would explain a lot. The item hits the stairs and bounces down to the first floor. Adam collapses the pole and throws it back into his apartment and heads to investigate the object that fell. At first glance, Adam's not even sure what it is. It's dingy and faded black. But as Adam finally picks it up, he realizes what it is. A small leather shoe. Adam runs back upstairs and texts his landlord what's going on, and the landlord agrees to come check it out later that day. A few hours later, the landlord is up on a ladder with a flashlight, looking into the crawl space. Adam watches below, just waiting for something to grab him and yank him into the darkness. But after looking all around, the landlord says, "There's nothing up here." "Oh wait," he says a moment later, and reaches with his free arm into the dark. And when he pulled it back, he had something small and round in his hands. He climbs down and hands it to Adam. It was a very old, tiny green marble. It was so worn that it didn't register as a marble to Adam at first. Its shape was also weird and had a little bump on one end. The landlord, unfazed, tells Adam to call him if anything else happens. Adam immediately runs upstairs to his office to see if he could figure out anything about this marble that made its way into his ceiling. He didn't really have much to work with and didn't really find out much, but he did figure out the bump on the marble, at least he thinks. In the early 1900s, they made glass marbles by hand and would cut the molten glass with big metal scissors, which would mean the marble is probably really old. So now he has a decrepit old shoe and a marble sitting on his dresser, thinking to himself, I guess this is the new normal. Welcome back for part 11 of the Dear David haunting. A full 2 weeks passed before Adam tweets again regarding his haunted apartment. Apart from being busy, Adam recounts not sleeping well, weird dreams, constantly tired, and random sudden bouts of dizziness for the last couple of weeks. Noting that because he constantly has the earbuds in, he made a mental note to get his ears checked. Other than that, he says, everything else has been quiet. He sort of fooled himself into thinking that finding those items in the attic somehow ended all of this. Not that that would make much sense. But the week previous, something strange started happening. Late that Wednesday, he woke up with a start and felt something strange, like something had just been watching him. He turns on his light, but he is alone. Still, he says, there was this overlying tangible feeling of badness, a feeling Adam was used to, a feeling that always accompanied David. Other people tweet to Adam saying David might just need help, but to Adam, that's not the case, because every time David shows up, Adam feels a palpable sense of malice, and that's what he felt that night. Exhausted, he falls back to sleep, but again, this happens the very next night. He wakes up suddenly feeling like he had just missed seeing something, like a candle just went out and he could smell it. He thinks about using the pet cam from the living room, but the cord didn't reach high enough to capture the entire room. So he downloads an app that takes a photo every 60 seconds and sets it on the top of his bookshelf, which he mentions is 7 feet high and has a good view of his bed and the surrounding room. Then he goes to sleep. Just like before, he jolts awake hours later, feeling the same unease. He turns on the light and hurries out of the bed to check his phone. 350 photos, the vast majority of them were of him sleeping in an empty room. Leaving a couple lights on in the room for better lighting, you just see him sleeping alone for the first 100 or so photos. Then suddenly, he was there, standing on the chair at the foot of the bed, just staring at Adam. In the next photo, for a minute later, David is just staring up at the ceiling, just staring. Then he appears to just collapse on the chair. The next dozen photos are all just like this. Just David lying completely lifeless. At first, looking at the photos, Adam thinks David is dead, which he admits wouldn't make any sense. Adam, glancing away from the photo, looks at the chair, half expecting David to still be there, but it was empty. Then in the next photo, David is gone, the room totally empty. Several photos later, he's still gone. Adam figures maybe that was it, but continues swiping through the photos. But about 15 photos later, David was back, standing right next to the bed, just like the last time Adam saw him. Adam's heart's racing. He doesn't want to look through the rest of the photos, but knows he has to. He swipes to the next photo and his heart sinks. David was on the bed, inches away from Adam, staring down at him, sleeping. The next photo was worse. David is staring right at the camera. After that, the next minute on, there's seemingly nothing. He disappeared, and the rest of the roll is just Adam sleeping alone. That is, until the final photo. Adam's at loss for words. That malformed ear, the stringy hair. Adam doesn't even know what to think. He looks all over his room and can't find anything. He's so exhausted he can't process it and says even now, all he wants is sleep.